Our Gunanga Kambana Jet Mama Japa Moja, Motivated at Misa Jet. Tawa Quaquinto, Kunti suyo, Chinche suyo, Colia suyo, Ante suyo, Maña Cosunchis, Calpata. Ay, Tay, and Apache, and Tay, Kilamama Kunanga, Yanapawa, Calpanjo, Ki, Panaiko, Sumachta Kunanga, or Bensahita Pipe, how Estados Unidos Ma. Nagat apu chasta kunang nagata apu ilambo Bolivia Tiahuanaco Sabasiray Pitusiray Mama Pernica Mama Simona Kahipata Kwai kunang presata animo kunang conjuración damu tres hay maravilloso gracias kenki apun son kunang kham kuyanan kenki amat khotan kaim on mayam dalin rakhtu kuimana el kunaman respectan susame kham boy kunang conjuración kunang kuyanan $70 cements no so tengo que ayudar a mí. Italia na khpach kunang kalpata churawai kum sai kunang alino ayo poya.
Bison.
Hampuy Pachamama kunang apu kunang inditaita kilama mama kocha hampuy yanapay kunang sumakta kalpanchawayo.
Gracias, Bison, hermana. Hi, Bison.
Hi, Bison, chistanay.
Welcome, everybody. This is Virtual Council. Last week, we were here with Grandma Karina of Squamish, Canada, and she has officially passed off the feather to our friend Carol Hiltner. And we are excited to have Carol Hiltner here today. She stands as a bridge being and wisdom keeper, bringing in the lines of the Altai Mountains and the roots of indigenous wisdom of Europe. So we're extremely happy to have her here today. Last week she told me wisdom keeping doesn't do any good if you take it to the grave. So we're extremely happy to have her here this week in Virtual Council to share the depths of her wisdom that she carries from her journeys. Carol, you can check out Carol's work at altaimir.com, excuse me. .org.
Okay.
So Carol translates her experiences in the and visions of the realms of light through writing and painting. And you can see right here behind her this amazing painting that she has done. This is part of her experiences that she experienced while in the Altai Mountains. So she also has numerous articles of Russian mysticism and some of her books on altaibooks.com. And Altai is spelled A-L-T-A-I. In 2006, she started a nonprofit called Altai Mt University to help the indigenous Altai people save their sacred lands and culture. I feel particularly connected to this aspect of Carol's work as I'm here with my brother Ricardo and my aunt here. And this is a similar work that we do here in Peru, working to empower indigenous nations to stand strong in their culture and to stand strong in the environmental wisdom that they hold. And so in 2011, Carol organized and led an international expedition to open an energy gate in Altai. And you can find her books and paintings on altaimir.org. So Carol, I'm going to go ahead and pass off the eagle feather, well, Condor Feather today, Condor Feather to you. And we look forward to hearing about your wisdom of reconnecting to indigenous European roots and all of the other amazing goodness you have to share today.
So I will accept it with my hand, since the feather is not something that I know of as a tool for communicating. So one of the things that I have spent I spent about a decade with half my time in Siberia in the Altai Mountains. And I was called there through a dream, and I had many mystical experiences while I was there. It's a very mystical place. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you perfectly. Thank you.
Great, okay. And Altai is a place where it's generally agreed by the Siberian shamans that shamanism originated. And one of the things that I found was that my experiences there were shamanic experiences directly with nature, not through the shamanistic practices that were there, but simply through what nature gave me. And one of the things that I have heard through the years from indigenous people is how frustrating it is to have, on one hand, Western culture completely discounts their contribution. The authorities completely discount their contribution and make genocide and terrorize the people. On the other hand, many of our young people especially are taking the indigenous practices and incorporating them into their own without really giving any appreciation to their source. And so having directly experienced shamanic journeys simply through nature, thought about this, and what I realized is that I am of a European heritage, German and French and English, and we of Western Europe have completely lost our indigenous roots. And the same, I don't know what the culture is that came in and has co-opted Western culture and takes away and I would say makes conquest of the rest of the world. But it seems to me that the first conquest was Western Europe, and there's evidence in archaeological evidence that there was a sacred feminine culture in Europe prior to what we would generally consider, quote, civilization. And it was quite civilized. It was pastoral, and there was agriculture, and the mother was sacred, as is true for most cultures around the world, the indigenous cultures. And the conquest that happened of this completely destroyed. The women, you may know that women were, even in the last several centuries, were any women who were, or any men who had the direct connection to spirit that the indigenous people have, were killed. So I ask of the indigenous people that I encounter, please to share, because this is how Western culture will be healed. I was able to directly connect, but that's an opportunity that's not available to a lot of people. So I ask for permission and forbearance for those people who are really called to connect with spirit, and the source that they find is the indigenous source. So let me turn it back to you.
Well, I just feel really blessed to hear you speaking the way that you're speaking. I feel that we're particularly blessed this morning too to have some of the indigenous people from Peru sitting here. They just decided to pop into the house today and pay a visit, and so it was really nice for us to be able to start out by sharing the singing bowls that you were offering, and then sharing the prayers of the Quero in their ancient language. It's over 2,000 years old, and creating that bridge of wisdom. And I absolutely agree with you with what you're saying about the sacred feminine culture. I being in Europe, and then as well as other cultures around the world, and particularly my brother and my aunt here, and the culture of the Queros, they are consistently praying to Pachamama. And that's what the prayers were happening today. So Pachamama being the earth mother and the feminine. And a knowledge that, the feminine is the center of the household, the center of the cooking, the center of all that's going on in the family and on the land. And so I stand with you in sending out a request and a plea to indigenous nations of the world to, yes, please share. I know it's been really hard for indigenous nations to come over cultural pain and come over individual pain, to be able to come into a time now to actually be able to share. And a lot of that, we actually experience a lot of that when we're in council now, like, council in person. And that's one of the objectives that we would like to do in this virtual council, is to be able to step out of this cultural pain, to be able to discuss these things that are happening in around the world, and to be able to share that wisdom of the earth, share that wisdom of the mother, and each of us coming back to our indigenous roots of the earth, being on earth. So thank you. So let me see. Go ahead.
It's a time for celebration, because my understanding is that civilization or culture or cultural awareness, human awareness, goes in long cycles. In cycles that are related to the precession of the equinoxes, which is a 26,000 year cycle. And it appears that the last high civilization, spiritual civilizations on the planet, were about 13,000 years ago. And we are at the bottom of the cycle. We are at the place of least awareness now, but we are past the bottom, and what's happening is that this is a time, I know that there are indigenous prophecies from all over the world that speak of this time, and many of them have been coming true, that it's the beginning of the change, it's the beginning of awakening. And one of the wonderful things that being an elder gives me is that I've been able to see in my 65 years the awakening. Back when I was a child, and I can see that my parents' energy, they lived in a different world. And I live in a different world, and my children and grandchildren are much more awake than I am. The children that are coming in now are much more conscious and enlightened. And not only are there prophecies, but there is also scientific evidence that the solar system is coming into an area of high energy ether, and electromagnetic energy, and it's lighting up the solar system, or the whole solar system. And that's been going on for about 50 years. And so there is not only the spiritual evidence of people waking up, of being very interested in finding their roots again and maintaining their roots, but also there's scientific evidence that leads us to believe that we are beginning to reawaken.
And so in this time of, not only in this ethereal realm of, the spiritual, the prophecies coming alive, which is actually a very tangible day-to-day experience, but we also have the scientific evidence that the solar system itself is changing and shifting. And so what, in your experience, what would you say is a great way for us to ground in these high frequencies in our day-to-day and to stay in that higher energy to assist the earth to continue in its rebirth and moving into that heart chakra space now of the entire earth planet?
Well, the earth is carrying us. And the urge to reconnect, to make that connection, to be connected, is wired into us. It's something that we need. And so there has been defined what's called the hero's journey. And in Western culture, it's also called a spiritual quest. It's also called a shamanic journey. And they're all essentially the same thing. They have the same form. And we see them in movies, we see them in books, we see them in our own experience. They aren't necessarily even something like going on a physical journey. Something like getting a college degree or even making art can be a spiritual quest. And there are certain stages to it. The first stage is that somehow you hear the call. Someone talks to you, you have a dream, somehow or other you're given the gift. And then you have to be willing to make the change. You have to be willing to give up whatever is working for you or not working for you and answer the call. And for most people, that's very difficult. And sometimes that's where sometimes people need to be called repeatedly. But so you can
Continue.
say goodbye.
Continue.
Go ahead.
They were leaving the room to go to ceremony.
So they're off on their own spiritual journey.
They are. They heard the call and they made the choice.
That's right. So the next thing that happens is that when you are thrashing around trying to figure out how you can possibly answer the call. For me, the call was in a dream, and light beings came into my house and stayed after I woke up. And invited me to come to the Altai Mountains in Siberia. And I had no idea how I could get there. So the next thing that happens is you find the resources that will get you there. I had another dream, and spirit mentors came into my life, and physical mentors came into my life. My next door neighbor turned out to be very psychic, and she came and told me what I needed to do. So the next thing that happens is that mentors come into your life. And then the next thing that happens is you decide, okay, I'm going to do this. Don't know how I'm going to do this, but I'm going to do this. And so you begin the journey. And I decided I was going to go around the world, all the way around the world, because Altai is completely on the opposite side. And in the process of going into of leaving the usual world behind, you encounter allies, and you have tests, and you find difficulties. And my ally on my first journey was my daughter. She was 25 at the time, and she came with me. And that really made it work. And we didn't speak Russian. We didn't know what we were doing. At one point, we almost got off the train going across Siberia at the wrong city because our schedule was wrong. And then when we got to the Altai Mountains, we didn't realize that we were going to have to do a 60-mile trek. We didn't know. So we bought hiking boots there, and the hiking boots fit me, but my daughter has small feet, and so we were not able to get hiking boots that fit her. And so she trekked 60 miles in hiking boots that were about 3 sizes too big for her.
Oh my gosh. Is it
And
snowy?
What?
Is it snowy
Was
there?
it what?
Snow.
Oh, thank God we missed the snow. The snow came the day after we left the mountain.
Okay.
There was a foot of snow the day after we left the mountain. I don't know what we would have done if it had snowed. So 60 miles, and so I had been given a quest. I was to open a gate and translate tablets, and I had no idea how I was going to find these things. And so the next step of the journey is the approach to the ordeal. And so the trek, it turns out, was my approach to the ordeal, because we trekked to the mountain and got all the way to the sacred mountain, Mount Beluga, the White Mountain. And and we had a terrible time. and I mean, on one hand, the nature was fabulous, but physically we had a terrible time. And the other thing was, I didn't find any tablets. I didn't find the gate. And I came back feeling that I had failed. So I came back out of the mountains, and my daughter and I got as far as Moscow, and all of a sudden I dropped into the dream space. And this picture behind me is how I saw myself. I saw myself, well, the thing I had to do to open the gate was I had to energetically open my throat chakra.
Yeah.
And you may know that voice is what has been taken away from us. So I had to open my voice. And when I did that, all of my chakras lit up and they made light like a lighthouse. They made it like a spinning light. And so here I was in my vision and later my dream. It went on all night of lit up like a lighthouse. And that was the opening of the gate. So that was
the voice gate.
The voice gate. Yeah, exactly. So words are tricky. We don't have words, especially in English. We don't have words to describe the journey. And it's the journey of connecting to ourselves. And it's not a matter of connecting. Well, when you connect to yourself, you connect to everything. Because you realize that you are an energetic being and there aren't any boundaries between us. So I came back to Seattle, and my reward, the reward, which is the next part of the shamanic journey, is that first I had awareness of myself. But the next thing that happened is that an old physical injury that I had a ruined shoulder. And miraculously, from one moment to the next, my shoulder released. The scar tissue of my shoulder released. And suddenly, I had a heal. So that was my personal reward, and that made it really tangible for me. And part of the challenge that we in the Western culture have is to believe what's happening to us, to trust it, to honor that it's real, that it's more real than our life around us. So what happened actually in that process was a resurrection. So I was reborn into spiritual reality. That was the gift that was given to me when I did that quest. And the last step of the shamanic journey is to return with the treasure to share. Well, the treasure that I had to share then was my paintings. I came home and I made this painting. And it shifted my life. And what happened when my life was shifted was I couldn't go back to what I had been. I had to keep going back to Altai, partly because I hadn't finished my quest. I hadn't found the tablets. So it took me a while. When I finished the one quest, I began another, actually a bigger quest. I had a little mini quest. The first trek was a mini quest, and the bigger quest was the rest of my life. And so I went back, and what I understood was that I needed to be in that place. There's the valley where a river of light comes onto the planet, and I had to go and be in that place until I could hold it in myself, even in Seattle, where I am, when I'm back in the city, so that I could keep my connection to the cosmos. So that quest took me another 12 years. And every year I would a little bit longer be able to keep my connection. What I discovered, actually what I was told by the light beings, was that the tablets are tablets of light. And what I have discovered is that the light, the tablets of light are the Akashic records. They are the vibratory signature that we make when we become mortal, when we become physical, and it's part of creation, and in the larger scale of things, beyond myself alone, but basically what physical reality is itself a quest, a spiritual quest, to go away from, to forget our connection, and then come back to it. So in terms of how it can be done personally, individually, my quest was a rather exciting one, but for me, it took that. I wouldn't have believed it. If I hadn't gone to Altai after the light beings came into my house and discovered that the indigenous people there talk to those same light beings all the time, I wouldn't have believed it. I would have thought I was imagining it. But imagining is what we do. Imagining is our first connection. So every day we can make the connection. And the way that the connection is made is not by trying to make it or asking for it, but it's by recognizing that that we don't have to make a connection. It's what we are. And we simply have to climb back into what we are, the bigger self that we are. And so the way to do that, the way to remember that, is to give gratitude. And to give gratitude for those calls that seem terrible at the moment, getting fired from your job, having a car accident, having your rent raised so you can't afford it. All of those things that kick us out of our regular life. All of those are calls, and all of those are reason for gratitude.
I give you so much gratitude for everything that you're saying right now. I feel that not only are these words directed towards our audience, but I think they're very tailored to me at this time as well. Over this past week, I've been going through an extremely challenging experience that I would never have imagined. But it does remind me of the similar type of energy that picked me up out of Sedona, Arizona, and brought me to Peru. And just kind of where the whole life just shuts down really quickly and says, get going. And I love that you have it marked out, the steps. And I believe that any of us can hear the call. Any of us can. It's really about listening to your heart and really about listening to those signs that come up. I first got the call. I was in Sedona, Arizona. No, excuse me. I was in California first, and I had a friend invite me to Peru, and my heart said yes. I had no finances, nothing to get me there. I said, I'm going. I'm supposed to be at that indigenous ceremony. Never heard of ceremony, never heard of, just indigenous gatherings in general, but that said yes. I made it happen. I said, I'm going there, and I just made it happen. I sold the things that I need to sell, and I had maybe $2,000 when I came down here, which is definitely not a lot to buy. I got a one-way ticket and came with just enough. I knew I needed to be at that ceremony, and I had many dreams while in Peru. My friend actually never came, and I came by alone, and I was like, I'm going to that ceremony. I don't know how, but I found out where the place was. I told them that, I'm here on a very low budget, but I need to be at this ceremony. And I had a very profound vision through that ceremony that the young people have decided to re-inherit the earth, and we've made it through the transition. So this is on 11/11/11 on Island of the Sun. And that was the message that I had to bring to this group it was an older generation, actually. And from this ceremony, the elders sent me to Sedona, Arizona with a package. They said, don't open the package. I'm like, what are you sending me to another country with? Don't open the package, just bring it to Sedona. So I bring it to Sedona, and it was a ceremony, and I had a specific ceremony that I needed to do there. And upon doing that ceremony and staying in Sedona, just doing juice cleansing, actually, I received a very large vision to create a temple, to use art and music as the catalyst for getting these messages out about indigenous people, and coming back to herbs and teas to support indigenous temples to pop up everywhere and to create a network of them. I'm like, I come out and I tell everyone, I'm like, here's the key to the world. And everyone's like, what are you talking about? This makes no sense. What you're talking about makes no sense. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to go find some people that it does make sense to. So I went to Burning Man.
Where everybody gets
it. Where everyone knows. And one person got it there. But that one person inspired me to continue going. And right after Burning Man, I got a call to come back to Peru to be with an indigenous family. And it was for 12/21/12. I'm okay, I don't know how I'm going to do that, but I'm going. When I came, and not even a week later, my heart told me that I needed to be in Cusco at Machu Picchu, actually. And I don't do the tourist thing, but I was supposed to be at that point at Machu Picchu, when the sun was rising on New Year's for 2013. And the next day is who's now my father-in-law, he contacted me, and he, on Facebook, of all places, an indigenous person on Facebook. He doesn't know how to use the computer, actually, but he constantly gives his contact book to someone to help him contact his people. So I got contacted the next day. We meet each other. He's talking about a temple. I'm talking about a temple. And we're like, okay, we're obviously supposed to make a temple together. So he brings me to his house. And at his house is his son, who actually lives 24 hours away. He was just there that day. And that's where I first met his son, who's now my partner. He's been my partner for 3 years, and which is actually the line that brought me into the wisdom, brought me into the family even more. And from then on, the journey just continued, and now this is where I am. But what you're sharing with right now, I feel that I'm at your number 8 step right now, where you're saying you get a lot of tests. Lots of tests. And these are the tests, we say yes to the quest. We go on the quest. It's way different than we even imagined that it was, because we're in this Western mind, this Western concept. And then we get all these tests. And the tests are you stepping into your full power. It's like the fullest, highest realm of your values and your spiritual wisdom. Not necessarily shadowing behind the shamans and the other people, but being able to observe and see that really deep strength and that really deep wisdom that they have from being in their full power. At one time, they stepped into the role. It wasn't that they were just born that way in the culture. Some of them don't even step into that role in the culture. They step into it. And that's the same thing for us. We come into this journey and we step into that full role. And there's tests. The tests are, can you stay in that magic? Can you stay in that spiritual wisdom all the time? And I feel that I've definitely been in one of those this week. really a really strong one. And being able to stand up for the feminine, stand up for what's truth and what are right values, and actually, even if it's a dangerous situation, actually know that I'm protected. I know that I'm protected because of the work that I'm doing. I know that I'm protected because of the prayers, because of the coca, because of the mountains. And so thank you for what you're sharing right now, because I really agree to you and what you're saying about this opening of the gate. I've been since speaking with Grandma Karina. She speaks of the blue turquoise articulation initiation, right? The blue butterfly, turquoise butterfly. And I've been asking, okay, I'm ready to be able to fully communicate my experiences now. I did not specify though that it was gentle. So it's definitely been one of those shakers, and I feel that this is what's happening right now. And it's good that how you're sharing that we each go through these passages, and to recognize those really hardships as beautiful passages, the ones that just say, get going. You already know it, do it.
I have a joke about being a mother, that the job of a child is to take you to the edge and hold you there. And that's the job of a spiritual journey, is to take you to the edge and hold you there. And I would say that you like I am experiencing a like nested journeys. There are big ones and there are the small ones, and they all fold into each other. And your first journey was to take back the ceremony. Mm-hmm. That was the treasure that you took back. Mm-hmm. But that was an external treasure still. And the treasure that we all need to get to really with our lives is the internal treasure. Mm-hmm. And regarding physical safety, this may be, maybe not for everybody, but for myself, I know that when I find myself in a situation where I feel threatened, I don't put protection around myself. Mm-hmm. I draw the life force into myself so that I radiate out. Mm. And I trust that if I die, it's because I'm done. Because I've succeeded. And when I travel out of body, when I have these dreams and visions, I know what it's like through the veil. And physical life is very limited, but it's also a huge gift because it enables us to focus. It gives us a focal point. Our body is our focal point. Mm. Our body is our temple. So, yes, you're making a temple externally, but you're also making a temple inside yourself. Mm-hmm. And everything that you do, no matter how frustrating or how much of a failure or whatever, it's all good. It's all good. As far as I can see, what we call evil in the world is disconnection. It's forgetting, it's fear. And the antidote for it isn't to fight against it. The antidote for it is to own your magnificence and to share your magnificence, which was what you're doing. It's wonderful.
Thank you. In Aymara, to say it's all good, you say waliki waliki.
I think I've heard. I have a friend who lives in Argentina, and he says waka waka.
Waka waka. Waliki waliki waka waka.
I will add waliki waliki to my repertoire.
Well, I think you hit on some really key points. I don't think the quest ever ends. You get to these new plateaus. I mean, I thought the quest was coming to Peru and to building the temple. Still don't have the temple yet because the dream was way bigger than I could even see this much of, And so we're still working towards that. And I'm just learning more and more recently that working towards that is actually not working. It's actually the release. And it's actually sitting down and doing artwork or sitting down and chewing coca and doing things that nourish the temple, nourish the self. And when we're in that space of just autonomy, we're in that space of amazingness and our full power, then that's when we just magnetize it.
Yeah. So the gift that the youth bring is that you're coming in, you are beginning with the awareness that people of my generation are finishing with. And that is so exciting.
It is. That's something that I feel often when we're in council or we're sitting in meetings like this. I feel that your generation has actually brought it in for us, and we're actually being birthed now in a space where we can actually latch onto that a bit easier because it's in the collective consciousness now.
Well, we wrote it in. The Mother Earth brought it in.
Right.
And so we are as much beneficiaries as you.
Okay.
So I wish anyone who is watching this blessings. I give blessings and encouragement and gratitude for what you're doing.
Gracias a todos. And I'm wondering if you maybe want to, the other day you were touching on a subject that I really loved about we have a job to do in our bodies and that we can't keep going out of our bodies all the time in order to do that job. I wonder if you want to touch on that.
Yeah. That's the part about your body being your temple.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're out of your body, well, it's interesting. One of the things that I was told by a very wise young woman is that men are very grounded to the earth. And so when they look for connection, their route is up through the sky.
Mm-hmm.
Women are celestial beings.
Mm-hmm.
And when we need to make connection, we need to go to earth.
Mm-hmm.
We need to come into our physical. It's really easy for women to go out, generally. I mean, comparatively. We need to come into our body. We need to be grounded in our physicality. We need to feed our bodies. We need to feed the bodies of our children. And to be in a physical body is a huge gift. It gives the opportunity for experiences that can't be gotten through any other means. You get to smell the forest. You get to feel a baby's cheek. you get to experience what it feels like to love. Those are physical experiences, and that's the gift of being in a physical body. And we didn't talk about this, but I will just mention it. Food is really important. Food is your medicine, our medicine. And one of the things that is happening now on the planet, and particularly in Western culture, is that we are becoming aware that what we put into our food really creates our reality, into our mouths, creates our physical body. Mm-hmm. That's our temple. And we need to feed ourselves with the appropriate nutrition, and in a way that is a ceremony, actually. Mm-hmm. I mean, the food is a gift from Mother Earth. It's a gift from the sun. It's a gift to the universe, to us. And so, yeah, to be in a physical body, no matter how hard. Maybe this is my rationalization, but some people have it really easy, or seem to have it really easy in life. And what I figure is that those people who have it really easy in life, those are the young souls, because they have all they can manage. But the people who are born into tragedy, born into trauma and difficulty, those are the old souls. Those are the ones who can take that pain and transmute it into joy. Mm. And so, if you're having a really hard time, or if you've had a really hard life, I really honor you, because you are one of those who came in to give us all the gift of transmuting it.
Oh, yay. Well, thank you for all that you've been sharing today.
I think I'm empty of my wisdom. It's all gone.
Well, thanking Great Spirit and Creator for using you as a vessel today to share these messages about how each of us can connect down into our own roots, stepping into that heart space and that trust, that universal trust, and being willing to take the quest, and being willing to identify and take the quest in all the ways that it shows up, because the quest is never ending, and how that's really giving us the benefit as old souls and new souls to be able to be on earth, to assist in this transition, the transition of ourselves, the transition of the planet, and being able to transmute our hardships into joy and into love, and standing in that full power always. And thank you for sharing your experience with us of your call and to bring you to the Altai Mountains. And I just want to share with everyone again that if you want to check out more of her work on Altai, which is ALTAIMIR.org, you can see more of this fabulous artwork that you see behind Carol here, and check out some of her books, and know that all of that work is going to support the indigenous peoples and lands of Altai and the many other initiatives that Carol has going in terms of land stewardship and creativity and many more that I'm sure that I don't even know of yet, and I look forward to continuing to hear about. So, Carol, do you want to do us the honor of closing this ceremonial space today?
Okay. I offer blessings to you, to your family, to your loved ones, to all your neighbors, to all your neighbors' neighbors, to all of the animals that share your life with you, to all of the flowers that share your life with you, to the forests, to the mountains, to the rock, to the rock people, to the stars. And I thank them and thank you all for creating the miraculous reality in which we live.
Okay, gracias. Gracias Pachamama, gracias Apukuna, gracias Mama Coca, gracias a nuestros amigos Keros. Thank you to our brothers and sisters of the Keros. Thank you to the mountains, the stars, the two suns, the earth, the moon, and all the plants. Thank you, Carol, for being here, for being a vessel. Thank you for listening to your heart, and thank you for now being in a space to translate your messages, translate that wisdom that you've experienced through artwork, through books, and through this virtual space. May we continue to create rainbow bridges from the Sacred Valley of Peru to the Altai Mountains, to Seattle, and all over the world, to continue weaving this fabulous tapestry of a new earth, a fabulous tapestry of the beautiful thread that each of us are, a strong and powerful thread connected to all. And thank you, each of the people here in this virtual space with us, for being here and for listening. And may we all continue to meet here to hear the wisdom and to walk in integrity and wisdom in our own lives. Hayaya Pachamama. Gracias.